I thought that was pretty funny. We're up and running.
Let's go,
all right,
baby.
everybody.
We're live.
Yeah. Welcome to Elite Ageless Mindset. I'm Nick Best, and this is John Anderson, and here we are another Sunday.
That's it. We are here on another Sunday to share how we do it. We've been both doing this a hell of a long time, and now we're here to share it with you. And even better, this live stream is free every week, but we've also created basically a training and nutrition program that's extraordinarily affordable. We know times are tough right now, and some of you guys want some sort of coaching but having trouble with what it costs. Well, we may have your answer for us. So the best part is you even got a free trial. So if you want to check it out, click the link below. That being said, we are going to talk about some, it just seems like when we get into trying to improve ourselves, because when it comes down to it, eating right and training and all this kind of stuff, especially what we talk about every week, is all about improvement and people don't intend to get in the way, but a lot of situations where they do and don't even realize it. Nick, why don't you pop off the first thing that we're going to go into?
Yeah, so you don't want to give up your social life altogether. No, it's just you need to set boundaries and have creative ways of enforcing the boundaries so that you can achieve your goals. People will respect certain things if you communicate it to them in a specific way, and it's like, you're going out to dinner, or you're going out somewhere and you get to catch a ride with somebody, and you end up coming back at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning when you wanted to be home and get ready for bed at like 10, and that's stretching it if you're really getting after your training. You have to find creative ways of saying, hey, sure, I would love to ride with you, but my bedtime is this. Setting boundaries so that you can still accomplish your scheduling objectives for yourself during the day, yet not going, still going out with people, still doing things, but just being able to set the boundaries. And John is probably the best person I've ever seen at that.
Right on, brother. I appreciate that. Well, I think the first thing what Nick said is so true. Say, look, I'd love to ride with you, but I have this bedtime that I really adhere to. And so what you really got to think about, like if you're talking to somebody like Nick and we would quickly realize, okay, he puts a lot of time into being strong and recovering. So that bedtime is at the top of the list, So that would be one thing. But then the flip side is, let's just say you're with people that maybe didn't understand that part of maybe you're hanging out with a buddy who doesn't really train much, but he's into business, right? Well, that's something I use all the time. I say, hey, I'd love to ride with you, but I have this set bedtime at 8 p.m. I get up really early because that's when I have the quiet time I need to work on my business. Well, see, now, boom, that business person connects the dots. He recognizes that set bedtime is in place for a reason for my business, which that person that's in business understands. So you got to really think about when you're creating a reason for someone of why you want to do something, does that reason actually make sense to them? It might make perfect sense to you. A person that tends to not have a set bedtime, he probably is not going to really respect your set bedtime because he doesn't really respect his own. I'm not saying bad when I say respect. I don't mean to put he might let you slough off instead of respect. I'm not trying to bring disrespect in this conversation.
Well, the thing is, if they're really your friend, they're going to try to do what they can to accommodate what you need to be you anyway. And so they're not trying to necessarily disrespect you. It's just that's how they live, but you don't live how they live. So. Yes.
And that's what it comes down to. It is that sometimes people in your life won't see how you live your life closely enough to register how important this is to you. So really what it comes down to is when you're creating these boundaries, sometimes what you have to do is what I always remind myself is I have these boundaries, but I also have to speak in a language that person understands so they see the boundaries.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people won't see your boundaries because you're talking a language that's not important to them.
Right. So, So you find creative ways of making it relevant to them so that they'll understand what you need to do and what your goals and objectives are and where your boundaries are. So, I mean, because, you end up doing that in the whole next day and a half, you're just trying to catch back up and get your rest back and get back in your normal rhythm. And then once you get used to a rhythm, it really throws you off for a while when you're out of that rhythm. And all you try to do is get back into your rhythm. And, when things are important, those little things actually add up pretty quick. And that's one thing that a lot of average people don't understand is if you do that a couple times a week or a couple times a month, it's going to set you back. And the more you get set back, the less your progress happens. And our goal is slow, methodical process moving forwards. And so if you impede that process, you're not going to get anywhere. So it's really important to set boundaries on things. And then it's the same with like people who do stuff in the morning. If, hey, that's fine. I'll go do this with you in the morning, but I got to train first, or I got to do this first, or I got to be back at a certain time so I can train. That's my job.
And you know what? 100%, like when I get up really early because those hours in the morning allow me to do shit that I would have a hard time doing when everybody else is awake. And because I live my life that way, the people that are close to me understand that. And they will, even the ones that understand it sometimes will even have a hard time, being as on point as I might be with it. You just have to realize that in many cases, even the people that love you, that are around you, that support you, still may not totally understand. So don't get too bent out of shape about this stuff.
No.
I mean, it's your guidelines. It's why you do what you do. And one of the things I would remind myself is, hey, is this a situation that is not going to replicate itself quickly? Because let's just say let's say I'm having a conversation with someone that who knows what it could be. It's just an important moment in, say, their life. The odds of that happening again tomorrow are very slim. So I'm going to be happy to bend my own guidelines for someone I care about, and so just remember, don't be so rigid that, like Nick was saying in the beginning, don't screw up your personal life. Well, don't screw up your relationships with it either. You can do really, really well with, creating these guidelines and moving forth with them, just being reasonable with how you go about it. And the main thing is just don't, oh my God, I missed my bedtime. Now I'm totally screwed. Just let these little things roll off your back. It's never going to be perfect. It's okay.
Just know you're going to get back into your rhythm, but just try to limit as much as you can. That's all. There's going to be things in life that you have to stop for. There's important, like Jon said, there's important moments with people in your family, your friends and stuff like that, where you're going to need to be there for them. And it's going to throw you out of your rhythm. They're not intentionally taking you out of your rhythm. It's just that's the importance of the situation. So then you do what you can to get back into rhythm after that. But the important things are important. So deal with it. But the everyday things where people are trying to get you to go out and do stuff, go out and do stuff. Just set your boundaries.
Like, brother, how many times have we gone out with buddies, but don't drink? I can't even count how many times.
More times than I can count. And they're like, what do you want to drink? I'm like, water. They're like, that's it? I'm like, yep, that's it. I'm not drinking. You guys go ahead. You guys can drink all you want. If you need to, I'll drive you home. But I'm not drinking.
Well, I always say, look, I'm having a great time. Why are you worried about me? I don't need alcohol to have fun. I'm here. I'm smiling. This conversation is just kind of wasting both of our time, or as far as I can see. You want another beer? Have another beer. I'm not your business, So, but remember, in many cases, it's just everybody's drinking. Come on, have a drink, and don't just kind of let this shit roll off your back. Don't get bent out of shape about it.
At the end of the day, if they're truly interested in who you are or they're friends of yours, at the end of the day, they're not going to care anyway. They're just glad you're there. So just have confidence in that as well.
Let's also talk about kind of the flip side of this too, brother. When when let's just say that one of you guys shows up here, you get inspired and you're like, you know what, I'm going to do my meal prep. I'm going to start going to bed on time. I'm going to start getting up a little bit early so that I can have time for my training. You start creating some of these guidelines. You start living the life that you choose is best for you to be productive, right? Mm-hmm. Just remember that you're going to have people in your life that I don't know that they're really intending to do it, but they're, why are you doing this? You've made this change. And remember, change makes people feel uncomfortable. Yes. And so in many cases, just remember when they're giving you resistance, right? It's because they see that you're changing. And in many cases, they're afraid that you're going to just change and evolve right away. Right. So just remember that in many cases, they're a little bit scared. They don't quite understand it. But here's the thing. What I was getting to is when you start something like this and you stick to it long enough, then they'll realize, okay, he's not fucking around. He's not going to stop this. Maybe I should just get behind him. But in most people's cases, they've started and quit. Let's be honest. When you start something, you don't continue, you fucking quit. You started and quit too many times, so the people around you think that what you're doing this time is going to be the same. And which means you brought this shit on yourself. Like they're thinking, have a beer. I know next weekend you're going to be drinking. That's what they're thinking. Mm-hmm. But if you've gone a year without drinking, guess what? They're going to get behind the fact that you're out with them. They're not drinking. So just remember, you just got to understand all this stuff and it's just kind of par for the course. It comes with the territory. It's not that big of a deal if you understand it, and then be consistent enough. Before you know it, people totally get behind you. Nick, let's talk about that briefly. When I was first starting, nobody really understood what I was doing, because I was like, I didn't go get a job out of college. I just started as an entrepreneur, started businesses and trying to make my own way, but it was really all for what I wanted to do with my real life work, which was strength and bodybuilding and everything else performance wise. And I did not have a whole lot of supporters in the beginning because nobody believed in what I was doing. And you just have to realize that it's only because they want the best for you, Right. So when people take a stance, that people that love you take a stance, just remember, usually it's not going to be vicious or vindictive, so it's one of those things. I guess I always make the joke, self-improvement is not easy, otherwise everybody would be improving every day.
Right. Oh, that's for sure. And there's so many traps in society that'll divert your attention from what you're focusing on. I mean, yes, entertainment is exactly designed to do that. So that's why it's called entertainment. It's when you have downtime and it's something you're going to go look at or pay attention to. And the thing is stay on point, stay on target, and move through it, and understand what the influences are that'll pull you away from what you're doing. God, my voice is super deep today.
You sound like me, brother.
No, I'm not as raspy, just deeper. You got that rasp going on. I'm just a little deeper. I don't have that rasp
today.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's I always make the joke, it's like, I don't know anybody else who sounds like they're talking as they gargle a mouthful of gravel.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That kind of sums it up.
Pretty good self-analysis.
I love it. So back to what we're talking about, everybody. Just remember that, there's, and we've talked about a few scenarios, but they're going to be unique to you, and you're going to make mistakes, but you'll learn from your mistakes. And that's really the key. If you want to have self-improvement in your life for the big picture, there's going to be some challenges, but that's okay. But here's the one thing I would remind you. If you have committed to self-improvement and you have some regular pattern of doing it, you have joined the club of the people who are good at doing difficult shit.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And the reason why it's difficult is because it's not easy, but it's not impossible. Difficult does not mean impossible. Impossible means impossible, but difficult does not mean impossible. It just means it's going to take a little while. It's going to take patience. It's going to take work. It's going to take effort. But once you start doing it, then you got it. Once you own it, it's yours.
Well, and the thing about it, remember too, so correct, brother. So correct. It's yours. But just remember, even, it's only impossible until somebody does it. And usually the people around you that are saying it's impossible, it's because they're not actively trying. When you're actively trying to do something that most people think is impossible, you're doing it. So is it actual possible? That's really not always the question. The question is, can you continue to do it and enjoy the process enough to do it for the big picture?
Yeah. And the thing to realize is mediocrity is always going to try to pull you back to it.
Oh, brother, talk on that a little bit. Oh, my Lord. That's a whole damn Sunday in itself, brother. But let's definitely key on this a little bit. This is good. We can't walk away from that. Now that you open the can of the lid of this thing.
Yeah. So people get jealous really easy, people of success and things like that. And people will say things, well, why are you doing it at that age? And this guy got hurt doing that. So why are you doing that? Or this guy does this. And why are you doing that? Or you're doing it wrong. Or you're doing this wrong. They'll always say things because they're not doing it. They're not out there working. And they're going to try to slow you down or divert you from your course of achieving your goals. And they want to pull you back to them because they feel bad about themselves. And that is always
you just summed up all of the hatred on social media right there.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's 99% of the time, that's what it is. Even doctors will get on there and start like saying things, and you're like, yes, but this, and here's the results. That is research.
Let me just jump in on that doctor thing real quick. If a doctor was a doctor and he was worth a damn, you think he'd have time to be fucking commenting on social media? So let's just look at that real quick. Let's forget anybody who's fucking become good at what they do. They might have the time because they've gotten good enough that the choices to have the time, but they are not going to invest that precious time into negative commenting on social media. So when you're having the haters or the people that stand against you, just remember, it's usually like Nick said, it's coming from some root of jealousy.
Right.
And they may not even know it.
I know. According to the internet, I have no idea how to turn it back.
Yeah, I'm not one of the strongest backs at our age. We could put you at right at the top of the strongest. If not, we need to have somebody prove it because, I mean, brother, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So they'll say here, you're doing that wrong, or you're jerking too much. You're doing this. I go, yes, but I'm doing this so I can pick up sandbags and kegs and things really fast. It also helps my deadlift. I'm doing it so that while I'm doing something that's dynamic, I'm developing strength and I'm learning how to synchronize my whole body to move this weight. And oh, by the way, my back is like a half a foot wider than yours. So please, but people just feel free to try to say things to make you feel bad about what you're doing or change what you're doing. It's like, no. Sorry. Great. I'm sorry. Thank you for your opinion. I would like you, like a lot of times I'm like, oh, so how would you train for World's Strongest Man? Or how would you train to pull 800 pounds in the deadlift? Because here's all the instances where I've managed to accomplish this and my back's fine and I feel great. So what's the problem? So mediocrity will always try to pull you back to it. Always. But that's where you just step forward. You make a nice thing to the side, or you just completely ignore what they have to say and move on to the next thing.
And that's my path right there, brother. Like you with like you're talking about with negative comments, posing a question back to get them to, like that's obviously a great way to go. I just don't address it. You know, if you and I are walking down the street and someone walked up and looked me right in the face and said, you are a fucking cocksucker, I would look back at him and say, you might be right. Come on, Nick, let's go.
Yeah.
Because it's over. I possibly agreed. What else are you going to say? What's that?
The funny thing is people don't do that. They do that on social media where they're
Yeah,
saying,
no, of course. Of course.
which the problem with social media is the algorithm's built for arguments.
Isn't it?
And so when somebody makes a comment like that, if I go and reply to them, something that'll inspire them thinking or me thinking or get other people will sit there and just it'll get pushed into the algorithm, and then people will flock to it. And then you'll have like 100, 200, 300 comments just in that one argument with that one person. And it drives the social media. So you want to be polite. You don't want to cuss. You don't want to do things. You just back up your point and move on, or you ignore the post. If you're trying to build your social media account, unfortunately, you need to reply to a couple of those because that'll just drive the algorithm crazy.
Brother, that's a really good point in the regards that, we never really talked about when people start, they start working hard, they start making changes. They're usually pretty happy to document their progress and share it on social media.
Right.
Brother, this is really good that you brought this up, because just remember this. You're not going to put something on social media without having somebody throw a turd at you. It's just going to happen.
Nobody's going to be happy. Somebody will just say something somewhere.
Yeah, and so just remember, that's just part of the equation. If you're going to post something, do whatever you do not let that be the reason why you stop what you're doing. Because no matter what happens, that's pretty much a guarantee. There's not many guarantees in life, but when it comes to social media, you can pretty much guarantee you put something up there, somebody is going to say something rude.
Yeah. And you know what? Okay, fine. I'm just going to let that roll off my back. I'll reply to something, I'm not going to sit there and use cuss words or whatever. I'll just point something out and move on to the next thing. But
on that level, brother, like I'm just used like myself, you probably too, we've dealt with it enough and just we're let roll off. But like Terry, my wife, it really, really bothers her down deep. Right. And so you just got to remember is that it's like when you're going to post and someone's going to say something like that, you really have to prepare yourself for the fact that it's going to happen. And when it does, kind of let it go. My wife is more, when I said it bothers her about me. She gets really protective, which is understandable, but then she sees me not be affected and she can kind of follow my lead. So just remember wherever you put if you put somebody, you're doing great, you put something up, someone talks shit. If you put attention to that talking shit, you're going to get more of that talking shit. If you don't pay attention to that talking shit, you're going to get less of it. So just remember, you're going to get more of where you put your attention.
Correct. And the thing, it took me a while. It's like a lot of the comments. I remember when I first started social media, I was like, I thought I had to prove my point to them, and then I kind of realized I'm like, I really don't have to prove anything to them. I'm the walking proof anyway. So
I was going to say, how long did it take you to figure out, just by standing up, you're proving your point?
Right. You just point to the scoreboard. At the end of the day, you don't even have to say anything. It's just like scoreboard, dude. Just go look at the scoreboard. It's really easy. It's a simple Google search. Just pull it up. I've done a thing or two in a few places. So it's kind of like, okay, well, thanks. But mediocrity will try to pull you back to it. Yeah. And people have a tendency to think they're right no matter what. And it's like, if you're not open to hearing another side of something and a possible explanation, because I'm open to hear, I always want to learn. I always want to find another point of view of something, of anything that I'm interested in. And if you're not opening to listening to somebody that has a different opinion of yours, even though you might not agree with it right away, you still take that information and then consider it, look at it, think about it, and then move on. That's the way people learn. That's how we communicate with each other. And I think if we did that more as a society, it's like, okay, well, you're into this and I'm into that, and these people don't like that and these people don't like that. But you don't necessarily have to not allow them to exist in that area or whatever. You just go, okay, well, you do you, boo. I'm over here. Have fun. just, enjoy your life. I'm going to enjoy mine and move on with things. It's not the end of the world on so many things.
And, and it all goes back to what we originally started talking about was the boundaries.
Yeah.
And on that level,
wow,
the boundaries. Well, it all fits under the umbrella, but it's definitely we've covered a lot of topics within boundaries for sure. But I think that's the beauty of these conversations is they're just purely organic,
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. But I think, the whole thing with boundaries, we talked about friends and family. We talked about, people that might not know you that well. Now we're going to people who don't know you at all on social media.
Yeah.
And just remember, setting the boundaries with them. In many cases, the boundaries with them has to do with you having the discipline to uphold the boundaries you set for yourself with them. The script gets flipped on this one, everyone.
Yeah, it definitely gets flipped on that one. And like I said, if you're building a social media account, the algorithm will eat that up. So even if you do reply to somebody to boost your algorithm, you have to understand what you're doing and not take it personally. Just go through it.
Yep.
Your algorithm explodes. The views on the thing goes. I got a couple back training videos that got like 5 million views. And it was because people were trying to tell me what I was doing was wrong. And I commented back on them, and it just drove it crazy. But I don't take to heart anything that they had to say. And that's what you have to do too. I mean, people use foul language and they say things that are bad about you. And it's just like, no, that's not true. And you have to understand that and just don't take it personally and let the naysayers go. If you're not interested in building that account, then you basically just, okay, cool. Thanks. Bye. And don't even reply to them. If you're not going to push social media, don't bother replying to negative comments. Only reply to positive things.
Absolutely. And on this level, like this kind of whole topic that we broke loose, this is something that when I have, I mean, broke loose in a good way, because we covered a lot of elements, because I mean, literally this conversation, it's crazy. It almost follows one of the guides that I have in my one-on-one coaching, because when I have when I get to know my clients, I have to have a conversation with them like this in my one-on-one setting. Okay, look, this is where you started. This is where we are. And it's very clear this is where we're going. If this hasn't started, it's coming. What is this? The conversation we're having right now. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not prepared for this and it hits you out of nowhere, it's going to be difficult to deal with. So, for those of you that start following our lead, you're going to go down the road of having some of these challenges. And now that we've had this conversation about it, it's going to make it a lot easier to deal with. It's kind of like if we said, hey, if you go outside today, it's going to be piss pouring rain, bring an umbrella. You knew you had to have an umbrella going outside. It was going to be a challenging day in the rain. It was easier because you knew it. Well, that's all we're doing here today. Because if you follow our lead, you're going to break free from the norm really, really fast.
Right. Yep. And the norm is not going to be.
When you break free from the norm fights back. And that's what this conversation was all about. So that being said, this is actually a really wonderful conversation, brother, because this is stuff that people need to hear because it's extraordinarily helpful. So that being said, what's the words of wisdom, my brother?
Words of wisdom today: set your boundaries and be creative on how you talk to the people that you're trying to set the boundaries with. Find something that they can relate to as you set your boundary to where you need to be and when you need to be there. And you're going to be a lot more successful in getting the things that you need to get done and accomplished at the end of the day.
Yep. And I would say if you're experiencing any of this stuff, you are already outside of normal. Embrace it. So
enjoy it.
That's it. Because most people, they just want to get where you are right now. And again, if you're following our lead, it's only going to get better. So that being said, everyone, another Sunday bringing you some really fun stuff, because hell, we're having fun with these conversations and we know that they're valuable. especially when you guys take this stuff and put it to use, especially accompanied with the training and nutrition that we have for you. If you want to exercise that, click the link below. We made it very, very affordable for any of you guys that are having financial struggles, because you know the world is becoming a tough place right now, but we got your back. So,
and welcome to the 1%.
There we go. There we go. All right, everyone. That being said, thank you for checking us out. We will see you next week, same time, same place.
That was fun.
That was a good one, dude.
There's some good stuff in there.
Absolutely, there was. And that's stuff that people need too, because they get slapped by this stuff and they don't see it coming.